My name's Julie Royle. I'm 62 years old, and I was diagnosed in May 2012 with idiopathic pulmonary hypertension.
My name's Kevin Rowland. I'm 71. I have been with Julie for, some might say too long, but I'm not one of them, for 20 years. 20 years, yeah. Gone like
not
that.
Not living together.
Yeah,
Just
we've been partners for 20
partners,
years.
Yeah. Yes, when I was diagnosed with PH, I'd been in Sheffield Specialist Centre for 2 days. And on the second day, I had the right heart catheter, and that was the final test. But it was also my birthday. So I was 53 on that day. And despite it being an horrendous day, I had quite a funny episode with one of the consultants, Dr. Elliot, because he was the one who performed the catheter. And when they wheeled me into theatre, he didn't know me, and he asked for me name and date of birth. And I told him, and he said, "Oh, gosh, it's your birthday today, and we're doing this to you." So I said, because I was so scared, yes, I should be having a massage and a pampering, and instead you're going to stick a needle in my neck. So when I came back to the ward, they actually sang happy birthday to me, which was beautiful, and it made me realise from day one I was in safe hands. But when they came round and told me the news, the bottom dropped out of my world. Absolutely, because I'd been fit all my life. I was an aerobics instructor. I used to go jogging and occasional swimming, and I never smoked, and I wasn't much of a drinker or anything. And I just thought, why me? You know, why is this happening to me? And I was devastated because my daughter and my son were both just at uni. I just had to remortgage my home. I was a single parent then, you know, living alone with my 2 children. And everything just raced through my head. And then at the very top of it, I thought, I could die tomorrow.
I suppose it was a bit of a blur, a bit of a shock, but a bit of reassurance in a strange way, because at least we then knew what was wrong with her.
I was just thinking while he was talking, for him to be in my life at that time, I recall thinking, and this person has given me, like he said, he's optimistic. So even though I was going in a dark hole and really, really scared, and what would be the outcome? Not really for me, because I know we all die, but why me, why now? And what am I going to do about my children, and how are they going to deal with it? But Kevin's always been the optimistic one. I am optimistic in life per se, but when it comes to me, I think I'm not. As I tell everybody positively how to be and look on the bright side and do everything. But when it came to me, this is what I said to you before, I went down a dark hole instantly, because I'd known from the year before that something was going wrong and we didn't know what. But Kevin was so strong for me and so supportive. And I also thought, maybe he'll run away now. Maybe he won't want to be with me now, because I'm this damaged woman, really, who, you know, we were starting to go away together and getting used to each other, weren't we? And
still getting used to each other.
But it was, and I was scared that I might be alone. But when it happened, I just kept thinking, I don't think I can do this. But Kevin was there all the time saying, you know, you need to sort this out, you need to look at that. And I was trying to run away from it. So I went back into work, and I wanted to work, and I'm thinking, the drugs are working, I'm all right, just carry on as normal. And also I looked well, so nobody knew I was ill. But Kevin was a tower of strength, he really was, because he made me believe in me and what I had been and what I could be.
Well, Julie is very, very strong in her mind and to a certain extent in her body. So she will do too much, and there's times where I will interject and do stuff for her, but it's limited because she wants to do as much as she can for herself. I've gone through stages where I found myself wandering upstairs just to make sure that she's okay. And gets to our bedroom and Julia said, what are you doing? What you come up here for? And I said, oh, I just need to get something. And I started making excuses. Don't make those excuses now. So how has it affected me? It's a daft thing, but it's probably made me a more caring person, although Julie may have reason to disbelieve that.
Yeah.
But I do tend to think more about what I'm doing. Very occasionally, I'll just do stuff as if it's back to how I normally used to do stuff, i.e. do nothing. And I can then see that from what Julie's going through, she's out of breath. And at that point, I say, look, what do I need to do? How can I help? And probably 50% of the time, she'll say, do nothing, just go and sit there. Yeah.
Yes, because I was alone for a while with my children, and I'd been quite an independent person from being a teenager because we were without parents. You know, I lived in a flat with one of my sisters and my brother. So we were very independent and very hardworking people, and we got used to not relying on anybody. And when I had the children, there was nobody to help me with the children. So I learned a lot in those days. And that was the thing that the diagnosis of PH did to me. It threatened my life, but it also threatens daily my independence and threatens my ability to be able to cope on my own if I had to. You know, Kevin is a rock, but one day one of us might not be here. I don't know. You know, and then I think, what would I do?
Yes, I suppose I am a carer, but it's like I'm a carer when I'm allowed to. As I said before, Julie is quite independent, and as I mentioned while Julie was talking, it's an exercise thing as well, because she needs to keep fit without overstretching herself. So yes, I am a carer, but I wouldn't say 100% of the time I am a carer. Definitely not. Going on holiday, going to our place in Portugal and France as well.
But we travel by car because we worked it out over the years of being diagnosed with the PH that the flying wasn't working. It was very stressful, very emotional, and I found it quite scary from a breathing point of view. So we worked out a system with ferries, and we go via ferries everywhere now if we go abroad. If we stay at home, we travel mostly to the Lake District because we love it there, don't we? And if we won the lottery, I think I'd move there. I think with Kevin, I've always, the longer we've been together, I've found that he says he's not caring, but he is. He can appear not to be because he can be quite, just do things, but underneath he is quite caring. But he's a really strong person. And I think I admire that in him because I worked so hard for so many years and never felt like I had somebody behind me who believed in me and who trusted my instincts and my wishes of what I'd like to do with my life. And all Kevin has been 100% there saying, you can do it, you will do it, if you want to do it, you will sort it out. And that's been the very positive side in that. But we're also we're similar, but we're different. We have different personalities, but we like the same things. We're both very tolerant people, aren't we? We can get on top of each other because we're more or less 24/7 together. But overall, we like being together, and I think that matters. If I go out for the day and I'll say to him, what are you going to do? I'll go out with my daughters. He'll say nothing because I'll just be on my own. So I think that's when Kevin doesn't realise he's having his respite. When I do go off for the day shopping with my daughter or something, go and see something with my son, he likes nothing better than to just sit at home himself and just do what he wants to do. So I don't think he recognises that. But I do love Kevin very much. So I do think, you know, that I can't imagine not being with him. And many years ago when we were dating, he did say, it's a very old fashioned word, isn't it? But he did say to
You're
me
not going to
once.
embarrass me now, are you?
Yeah. He did say to me once, when I was talking about some experiences I'd had him through my breakup, and he said, I knew that day I would be with you forever. So, and up to now he's keeping his promise.
She makes a very good Sunday lunch. And like me, she has a very, very good sense of humour as well.
Yeah.
Which I think I said before that with PH, you need a sense of humour. And I think that's perhaps where Julie is likes me, because I whilst being caring and understanding the illness and the depth of it, I can still have a sense of humour. I can still poke fun at her as she can at me, and we both have a good laugh. So sense of humour, absolutely paramount, got to be. And see, if I was to say now that I love to listen to her talking, she'd never stop. So I can't say that. So, but she does tend to rabbit on. Well, I think for me, if I had my time to go back to when the diagnosis was, it's learn as much as you can about what it is, not what it appears on Wikipedia or something like that. Learn it from the professionals, and know exactly what you're talking about, and then just take each day as it comes, and keep a sense of humour.
From my point of view, as a person with PH, if I was to give anybody with a new diagnosis any advice now, I would say, which I tend to do quite a lot if I meet people with PH, is to stick with, like Kevin said, just the site like PHA UK, because they will tell you everything you need to know from day one. Have an open dialogue with your specialist centre and your specialist nurses. Get in touch with your GP. Give them copies of the Emphasis magazine, as I did, so that the staff become aware of who they're treating and what the treatment is. And as a result of my case, one of my nurses who does the bloods has now studied PH as a nurse. So, and she said they were, because of my input, they've diagnosed more people in our borough with PH. So from that point of view, this is probably where my chatting comes in useful, because the best thing you can do is talk about it, because I didn't do. When I look back on my time, because I can be a very thought-provoking person, and I can lie in bed at night when Kevin's asleep and I'm awake all night, thinking about everything. I overthink things, but sometimes I wouldn't talk about them. And half the time it was because I didn't want to accept what could be happening and what the future could be. So I was trying to deny what was going to be the rest of my life, really. But if you do talk, and you talk first of all to your family, definitely your family, and don't hide anything, especially as a couple, because as a couple, I've been through most of the treatments. And when I had to have the IV line in, that became a massive discussion for me and Kevin from our sexual life point of view. You know, when I read about young people today with PH and they're starting to date and starting to want to have a family and everything that comes with it, you must really talk, because it's the not talking that can add to your stress levels and can exasperate your pH. So the talking is key. And you also have to read yourself and understand. And the other one I would definitely say is, because I read the book at the start of all the treatments and knew that the final one was a transplant. But in my first year and a half of PH, I'd gone through every treatment and was being assessed for transplant. So I scared myself to a point where I'm thinking, well, this is it, this is the last stage, and then I'm going to go. But I didn't, because you have to have faith in the drugs and you have to understand that not to be scared of having the drugs, and that every one of us, because I read about it a lot on the forum, people are asking each other advice about drugs. And I say to them, we're all on our own cocktail of drugs. And every one of us have a different body and a different type of pH. And we can be there to support each other and help each other with the forum. But if you have medical issues and worries, you should really get hold of the specialist centre, or if it's financial or emotional, or anything like that, get hold of the PHA UK, because if you don't have the answers, nobody does.
Once you get the initial diagnosis, it's not an easy listen well, certainly wasn't for me.
Care and patient.
Care and patient, but to have a doctor tell you exactly what is wrong, and then there's a chart up. I'll never forget the chart. There's a chart that outlines the pathway, and that is not easy.
And also, like I said, to be open with your family from the start about it. I was open with my family, and I thought I'd been through the worst. But as I said earlier, I went through most of the medications within a year and a half. And I'll never forget the one day, and I spoke to Charlie Elliott about it in my last visit, that it was him who was explaining to me how I needed to set up the IV line, because things were rapidly deteriorating. And my son, Alex, had brought me to the hospital that day because Kevin wasn't here. And he was talking to me at the side of the bed. I was in bed. And I just happened to look round, and my son, who was 20, was crying his eyes out because he was hearing what I'd never told him. And it devastated him, because I'd just said, well, I've got this and I've got to do that. But then when he was hearing it from a doctor, and I never realised till I saw him, and I said, can you stop talking, because it's hurting my son. And I realised then we'd not been as open as we should have been. And they were old enough to understand and help me really, and be there as a support mechanism, because you do need support. As independent as I am, I would be scared if there was no support network there. And I'm really reliant on people around me knowing everybody has keys, everybody's got my phone number. I've got everybody's phone number, and I know I'm only a call away from help. And that is the key. And if you can't find it within your family, it could be your best friends. Not everybody is blessed with a family who's helping them like I am, but it could be a best friend or a colleague
Or a neighbour.
Who really gets on board with you, and it will give you that support.